I'm Mike Duminiak from the West Virginia Infrastructure and Jobs Development Council. We can call that IJDC, which is an alphabet soup organization of other alphabet soups. We've got the DEP, the BPH, the WDA, the governor's office. It basically directly reports to the governor, and it helps to identify the funding sources for various infrastructure projects, water, wastewater, and stormwater. And they had a paper process for doing all of this. And for example, there were $500 million of money sitting in cash allocated to projects that weren't spending it. Now, if you think about the amount of money the state is losing on money that's sitting in cash instead of sitting in investment, where it could be at least earning a little bit of money, this development of this system essentially paid for itself within the first year by being able to identify where the money was, what it's being used for, which projects are on schedule, which ones are not. As we move on. I don't know, I've got an error. I'm not sure why. I'm not happy about that. Well, if it doesn't come up, you'll know it doesn't work. No, just kidding. A part of this is the GIS project. I'm going to talk about that. With the assistance of CDM Smith and Thrasher Engineering, all of the water and wastewater systems throughout the state were collected, and I don't need to tell you the amount of effort that goes into getting all of this to fit into one data set. You know how difficult that is. But we now have all of this information, and this information is now shared also with the member agencies of IJDC. So if you work for BPH or DEP or WDA and you want this data, it is yours to have. It's also on the public. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing this, so I'm going to keep on talking. Yes. Then maybe flash isn't there. Here's the main site. We'll click, maybe we'll go this way. Maybe I just can't type. Anyway, we'll continue along if it doesn't come up. It was working nicely for the presentation we did yesterday if you were at that. Maybe there just is no flash. That would be sad. For those of you that like the flash websites, I know we had a few presentations yesterday on those. As a little side note, if you download the app iSwifter for your iPad, you can run all of those just as well as you can on a desktop. So if you want to run your iPad applications of your Flash websites, iSwifter, it's $5, and it runs ours real well. But anyway, I'll skip all of this then. The website provides all this information. Now, what we are trying to do is move from being a reactive organization to a proactive organization. It's thinking about doing something, but it gives me an error, so I don't know what's going on. The reactive organization, what we have right now, is you submit a project you want to do. And then we have this information, and you try to compare it to all the different requirements that are in place. So is it impacted by AML? Can it get clean water? Can it get this or that? And that's how we decide which money goes where. And these buckets of money dwindle over the year. And sometimes a project that could be funded with one can't be funded because we've already allocated to a project that could have been funded by something else. And so we've been playing catch up with that. We've turned that on the other side now. Using GIS and other tools, we're going to start working on identifying areas in the state where projects are likely to be happening in the near future and knowing ahead of time what sorts of funding they could apply for, so we can more effectively dole out what is a very limited resource, which is the money. Otherwise, you're stuck getting a loan and having to pay interest, and a lot of places can't afford to do that that are smaller municipalities. Working on that, and then we also is the little stepchild of the organization, which is stormwater, which no one's really focusing on much yet, and that's an area where we're also going to be using the GIS to help better identify areas where stormwater projects might be a better priority. And as a little side note, coming from the consulting side of things and working with a lot of different places, there are a lot of technologies in water and wastewater that are not currently being utilized by many of the municipalities, partly because the cost to study whether or not they'd be feasible is beyond their abilities. Thankfully, with the GIS tools we have, we would be able to work with the other state agencies and determine whether or not there are areas that are potentially valuable for aquifer storage, or if we can do different water reuse projects. If we have a lot of active Marcellus mining going on that needs a good amount of water, can we sell off the water, instead of discharging all the, the water into streams and pumping back out again, for another supply, having them pull it from places we don't want them pulling it. There's a lot of options there, but that's the part of proactively looking at our data, something that wasn't able to be done before we developed this system. So that's really what we're trying to do right now. That's me. Over there, the one-man GIS shop, that's most everybody around here. It seems like they're the only one doing GIS in their particular area. Now, if you are, as I said, if you are part of DEP, any of its parts, VPH, WDA, Governor's Office, then you can get access to all of our data. If you are anybody else, through Larry Evans, we will have the water and wastewater served areas for you to be able to use in your analyses, and we can make other data available to you, but in that case you have to get some agreements, because some of the data we had and we manipulated and modified isn't our original data, and so there'd be some limitations. For example, all the structures. We're in the process of updating that. We did it once, we're updating it again now. All the structures that are served and unserved. We're going to be working with DEP on this to then take that and look at it with the census blocks to determine an estimate of how much water is being taken out of the ground in various places around the state, so they can better calculate how much water is being used for their statewide water budget. Complicated things like that, I suppose. I'm not too worried. I think we can do it. GIS is a wonderful tool. I wish this were showing. It works great. If anybody wants to go there, you have the link in your packets. If you have any questions, ever, go ahead and contact me. Just ask for GIS guy because they'll find me. My voicemail box doesn't work, so you just leave an analog message with someone and we'll get back to you. Thank you.